Matty Fresh on the track up estate. And I'm bringing to you live my boys Alec and Nate, Tequila Ty, Jay, Nelly, and Zillin in the building. So kick it back, pour the drink. We chillin' because I'm boozing and betting and ballin' like I'm 2-6 in the blue kicks. Watch me move quick. Yeah, this the blueprint. So who's getting involved? Welcome into the show. This is Booze, Bets, and Ball, baby.
And welcome back to Booze, Bets, and Ball, and that's all I have to say anymore. Side note.
Wait, we're as compared to what?
That whole like 3-sentence thing I used to have to say.
Oh yeah, that's sad. Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, so big banter is like not a thing anymore. It had nothing to do with us, by the way, in case anyone thinks that.
Well, I guess we're on the market for a highest bidder to be picked up by.
Yeah, we are.
ESPN, State Media.
Mm-hmm.
Simmons is probably still a thing. Any of those.
Yeah, so whoever wants us can have us now. We're probably going to start, well, at least Tyler especially, we're going to start cursing more, I guess, again. So that'll be the upside. The downside is I don't think you're going to get as many crossover events throughout the year with like other teams' podcasts. You're not going to get as much insight. I mean, we're still going to try, but
we are very insightful with or without the crossovers.
Yeah, it's not as obligated anymore, so that's
West Virginia Paul, though, that's the one we got to do sometime.
Yeah, he was right. We'll still do that. But we're going to talk about Penn State spring game, which happened this past Saturday. To be honest with you, I did not watch a second of the game live. I was busy kind of mingling out in Penn State. Went to the NIL event before the game, which was actually a lot of fun. Open bar with the Masters on the jumbo. I guess it's the jumbotron, whatever you want to call it. The scoreboard thing at the baseball field, and it was Hackenberg, McSorley, Clifford, Kimbinda, Theo Johnson there. So, decent group of guys to talk to with an open bar and the Masters on. I didn't complain about that at all. Cool event. So I was kind of doing that stuff. Wasn't really paying attention to the game, but
what was your conversation with any of them that was worth talking about?
Well, I know Sean, so like we were just catching up, BSing about stuff. Christian Hackenberg's uncle was my vice principal in high school, actually. So that's kind of what I opened with, and he was laughing. So I don't know, like we were talking about that a little bit. Trace, I didn't talk to Trace that much, honestly. He was busy talking to someone, so I didn't talk that much to him. But I don't know. That was it. Nothing too funny.
He'd be fun to talk to. Like he seems like he likes to have a good time.
Yeah. There was one funny part though. So I was over at the bar about to get a drink, and this guy has like 3 little kids with him, right? Like his kids, I guess. And he's like, "So who are you?" I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" He's like, "Boy, you seem to know the old quarterbacks. Like, who are you?" I was like, "Oh, well," I was like, "Well, I just like I had a class with Sean, blah blah blah." I knew like a family relative of Christian. Like the guy like thought I don't know what he thought, but it was so funny because this guy's like, "Who are you?" And I was like, It was a little funny.
Better version, you would have made something up and made him like he would have been getting your autograph. But.
I know. I don't look like I played football, and especially that day, I'll tell you that much.
Agent, you can be a coach, you can be lots of things.
Yeah, so that was the one funny thing that happened. This guy was like, so like I don't know, surprised or whatever you want to say that I was talking to them. I don't know. It was funny though. That was the only thing funny that really happened. But speaking of Penn State quarterbacks, I guess a lot of people were not that pleased with Drew Allar's performance, at least from an outside standpoint. I'll be honest, it was very, very windy there. I've experienced wind out of Penn State before, like, going to class and stuff. But for like wind gusts, like there have been times where in January, like I get out of my car and like the wind just hits you in the face and like tears just start coming right down. It's been windy there, but for like a constant wind, like throughout the whole day, like that was by far the worst I experienced there. So I give him some slack on that.
Or what? Did you go for the first half? Did you go into the stadium?
No, I mean I was outside the stadium, so I mean it was the same thing around there.
In there, though.
I mean, some people still said it was pretty windy in there. You see, I don't know how the wind really works inside the stadium compared to outside, obviously, because there is stance that blocks it. But I mean, people were saying he was inaccurate. Let's see if I can get this up here, but I mean, you could see this, right?
All right, highlights. Yeah, we're running. Here we go.
Yeah, so I mean, these are the throws. Some guy put together some mashup of every throw he missed, and I mean, there's also a video of ones he made. So I mean, that's just back foot.
Yeah, that
There's
one's.
there's no one open there anyway, though. Like, and
Let's see. Oh god, we got Matt Millen's voice in the background too. That's a fine throw, right? Like I don't know.
Yeah,
you can see there's garbage blowing on the field and stuff.
Yeah,
I
don't know. There's
that's a.
I mean,
that's the crossbar one,
yeah.
And that's getting pressured and off his back foot, and whatever.
Yeah, I mean that's a throw kind of we've seen a lot that where he kind of misses a guy like that. Just watch one more here, but I mean this is too good. Like that's a sack.
Yeah.
You know, like that was a sack anyway. So I don't know. Like some people want to overreact to that. I don't like. We saw it in games though, where it's like the West Virginia, the Maryland games. You see like first round potential out of the guy, and then they play Illinois, Ohio State, and Michigan, and it's just bad. And it's so much. How much of that is the talent around him and him? I don't think he was especially good in any of those games. I also don't think anyone exactly helped him in those games either. That goes from coaching staff to skill position guys. So I don't know, I'm somewhere in between on him. My opinion really hasn't changed that much. I still think he's the 5-star tools are there. He hasn't exactly put it together. I mean, I don't know, like, or is he gonna be a 4-year guy now all of a sudden? Like, I don't know if this looks like a this is it for him now, if it still hasn't improved as much, or if he's even here, if he transfers somewhere else, if this doesn't go well this next year. But I don't know. To me, it's too early. I think they're still trying to figure out a ton of things on the offensive line and the receivers, because Keandre Lambert-Smith is in the portal. He didn't play on Saturday. They were very conservative with Julian Fleming too, which I think is just, you know what he is. Like, you don't want him out there trying to prove something in the blue and white game, and all of a sudden it's a 6-month injury, and now you don't have him and Keandre Lambert-Smith next year. And I think that was part of it. I do think they need some of these young guys to get going. Amari Evans, Caden Saunders, those are guys that I think they already needed to rely on with Keandre Lambert-Smith here, just because saw in the last 4 or 5 games of the season he was not there at all. But you have 34 yards in those last 4 games, something like that, like 3 catches or something. Like they did okay without him, even though they lost a couple of those games in the end. Like they still scored a little bit in those games. So I think it's other guys that need to get going. And I don't know if they're going to bring another transfer.
They still 12 scholarships over, right?
Yeah,
that's a problem. Malik Mega is out now. He's in the transfer portal as well. With Keandre Lambert-Smith, who last year going into the season was my favorite player. I think it kind of soured a little bit, and depending on what you believe in the rumor mill about how let's say disciplined they are or were back then, and how much that contributed to poor performance, I don't know. We will see, but some speculation, and it's purely speculation, allegedly that he left because Julian Fleming came in, and maybe they thought that Penn State needed a more adult presence in the receiver room to build up that discipline a little bit. And if there's any truth to that, that sucks. But yeah, I don't know. If you were going to get concerned about Drew Aller's accuracy, go watch the Bo Prabula tape, because that was worse, right? And I don't know if he completed the pass. So he is a very one-dimensional quarterback. Aller's going to be better than he was probably that game, and hopefully better than last year. but I think the main hope is that Mike Yurcich sucked, did very little past Utah in the Rose Bowl to put guys in good positions, and especially Michigan, where that game was to be had the whole time. So can Andy Kotelnicki actually, does he have the team's best interest and in mind, and is he smart enough to use the 45 5-star running backs and 7 5-star receiver or tight ends that they have now and put them in the best positions to win games and still rely heavily on the defense likely, but just put guys in better positions than Yurcich did last year, right? And make better decisions in game. And I think if Aller is a 3.5-star quarterback and they have a 5-star offensive coordinator to go along with their run game, it's going to be fine. So, take some pressure off of him.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the last 3 national championship winners, Georgia twice, and then Michigan last year. It was not really because of quarterback play.
No.
It was because they had really damn good defenses. They ran the ball when they needed to. And, the quarterbacks made big plays on third downs when they were needed and that kind of stuff. And I think if you just maybe ask Aller to do that kind of stuff, help a lot more. I still think the defense is going to be really good. I know they lost a lot from last year, but you brought back your top 4 defensive tackles from last year. You have Carter moving to defensive end because you like what you still have at linebacker. They brought in the 2 transfer cornerbacks and pretty much kept your entire safety group. So I like that unit's still going to be strong. I know Manny Diaz is gone, but Tom Allen probably not on that level, but still pretty good as a DC. You're still going to be fine there. You obviously have the running backs everywhere. Singleton, Allen, now Quinton Martin's in the mix as a true freshman, and Cam Wallace is going to get in there too, I assume. So like that, they got that going for them there. The offensive line, I guess, maybe that's going to be a little bit of a question because if they're not good, then you're not really going to run that well anyway. Yeah. So I don't know. To me, it's, and Michigan did not have insane receiver play. Roman Wilson is a pretty good receiver, but he's not. I haven't seen him in a first round mock. I'm not sure if he's second, third round, somewhere around there. That was their number 1 guy. But outside that, they went to a lot of tight ends, which Penn State has too. I just think if you try to maybe copy that blueprint, it's going to work for them more than trying to become some air raid spread offense that I think maybe they envisioned with Aller and Yurcich at some point. It's not there. And part of it is the receiver talent. There's 4 stars in that room. Now, there's no 5 stars, but there's guys in there. Guys that were ranked higher than the Parker Washingtons, the Jahan Dotsons, and the KJ Hamlers of the world. And it's just not the way it was with those guys. Yeah.
Oh my God. So Chris Godwin, KJ Dotson, who else? Hamilton.
They were all borderline 4. Hamilton was a low guy. He was an 85 ranking, but all those other guys, borderline 4 stars. Yeah.
Yeah. The average. So there were some misses back then too, like Herb Charles and Juwan, who ended up being pretty good at Oregon and certainly in the NFL. But so there were some guys that came in that were highly touted and didn't pan out. But now you have everybody who was highly touted and nobody's really panned out yet, and that is very, very concerning. But if you okay, so you say that you don't want to be an air raid offense and things okay. Andy Kotelnicki, and I don't have his stats, and I can't per se go look them up right now, but he was at Buffalo. What kind of offense did Buffalo run? That was a ball control run.
Yeah, they ran a lot.
I only watched them against Penn State those couple of years. That's what they did. They ran 90 plays or something the one year they played in Beaver Stadium. So he can hopefully adjust to what he has in front of him and is a good enough evaluator of talent to make the right calls there and do the right thing.
Yeah. That 2019 game, I'm pretty sure Penn State lost the time of possession battle something like 42-18.
Yeah,
but they scored 45 points. I know part of that was on they got a pick 6 and they had another like at the end they scored a couple like quick bombs. Dotson had a big play at the end of the game. Like, so they scored really quick, but yeah, like Buffalo did. That's why they were losing at halftime because of that, because Buffalo just controlled the clock so much. But
45-13. Buffalo is winning 10-7 at halftime. Let's see. I don't know. I can't. Oh, here you go. Let's see. Team stats. Stupid cookies. What did you say? So they ran. Buffalo had 429 yards of total offense. Only 184 rushing, but they ran 90 plays.
Yeah.
Like, fucking crazy. 42 and a half minutes possession. Yeah. So, damn.
Yeah. I mean, so we'll see how that changes. But
that'll be Penn State against like Ohio State, right? And then somehow it'll still be 45-13 and we'll lose.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. I just still think it looks like it's a defensive team and you're going to try to run the ball and you're just asking Aller to make those third down plays. And, you know, I guess in a sense, it's a little disappointing to some people because they thought that Aller coming in here with the 5-star ranking would be a change from that, because that was a little bit of like what Clifford was. Now he ran obviously a lot, which helped. And he wasn't afraid to take shots with KJ and Dotson in 2019. I mean, I'm the thing that's is interesting to me. If you gave Aller the 2019 offensive position, skill position guys, where he has Hamler, Dotson, and Freiermuth, like, is it better than what we saw last year? Do they win an extra game? Do they knock off Ohio State? It's just
the 2019 line or the 2023 line.
Well, I'm just talking about skill position. The 23 line I think was better than the 19 line, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like,
yeah.
If you had the 19 line, I think Aller gets killed, right? Because
Clifford moved a lot better. Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I would just like to give Drew Aller anybody who is comparable to Dahan or KJ or Jesus, like Godwin. Like if he had Godwin, that'd be amazing, right? But he's a big dude who can kind of stretch the field, and that is not what we have now, unless you're going to get that out of Malik McClain, which was the expectation, I think. But I mean, he started out a little bit well last year and then kind of really faded.
Well, he had one catch after the first game of the year.
Yeah. So, but he had a bunch against West Virginia, right? I think.
Yeah, he went like 5 for 55 and a touchdown, and then he finished the year like 6 for 71 and a touchdown. You know, like that's impossibly hard to do. I see, like that's what just didn't make sense about the receiver group last year, and you know, I no one likes that group from last year really, but your top 2 guys from last year, Lambert Smith and Cephas, are now going to be on different teams this upcoming season. Now, is losing those 2, bringing in Fleming and everyone else in the room being a year older, is that a good trade-off, a bad trade-off, or more of the same?
It depends. I think if they're healthy, I think like everybody seems to think Trey Wallace can be awesome.
Yeah, that was probably he was not healthy last year.
Yeah. But I think so there were a lot of reports like out of Franklin directly that Cephas wasn't quite adjusting from MAC to Big Ten, right? So that's kind of a learning / discipline thing. And if you also assume that the other stuff that was said about the room in general and the lack of maturity there, then I would argue that bringing Julian Fleming in is orders of magnitude better than having you guys, right? So the funniest thing on Saturday or Sunday is when it was kind of a misquote, but Aller said Julian Fleming taught the wide receivers that they can use the jugs machine.
Right, yeah.
It's like that Drake meme, right? Where he's like, anyway, that's but if that's the level that we're at, then I don't know. The maturity standpoint is the most important thing for that unit, who is talented, right? And they are fast and they're good athletes and stuff. And that's why they have 4-star rankings. So let's put the other piece of it together and maybe it'll be okay.
Yeah, I just feel like it's kind of become a coaching thing because
No, that's the other problem.
the level of like we mentioned earlier, the level of the rankings of the guys you brought in has not changed since Franklin's been here, really. I mean, the funny thing is, and you mentioned this, the higher ranked guys have seemed to have been the guys that have flaked out, like Shorter 5-star, Daniel Jones or Daniel George, high
Yeah.
4-star, nothing. And then Dotson was the third receiver in that group, though that recruiting class that no one really talked about. And then he ended up being first round pick, and the other two, Daniel George, isn't playing football anymore, I don't think. And Justin Shorter, well, was like a practice squad guy for the Bills, but they've lost so many receivers that I think like he's actually on the depth chart as of right now. So like it's just weird how those things work out. But the rankings of the guys they've brought in, it's not really changed. It's just the production they've gotten out of them has. And I mean, Josh Gaddis gets a lot of crap because he kind of turned into a mess of a coordinator and that whole thing with Michigan and why he was let go and all that stuff. But he was a really good receivers coach here and did a lot for those guys.
When did he leave? What year did he leave?
That'd be 18 or 19.
Pretty late. So KJ was here by then, and
KJ was here. Dotson would have been a first year guy, I think. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Like I think even if you credit some of Dotson to Stubblefield or whatever, and then they let him go because he wasn't a good recruiter. But like you got to decide if you want a developer or a recruiter, and like those are kind of the two metrics that a position coach ought to be judged on, I suppose.
Yeah.
And if you are excellent at one and awful at the other, okay, that's all right. And if you're kind of middling at both, is maybe a good position. But I think that Stubblefield was a bad recruiter, but a pretty decent technician, I think. And now seems like we flipped the other way with Higgins, and I don't know, man. How's that gonna? I think if you can only pick one, you'd rather have somebody that's a good developer rather than somebody that's a good recruiter.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be the case with receiver since been here because as we just mentioned, the highly ranked guys kind of flaked down. It's the lower guys like Deshaun Hamilton was a very low 3-star, and he has the receptions record here. You know what I mean? Like it. So I do think like you do get guys like Jawan Sider where they develop really well, they recruit really well, but those guys are so rare.
Yeah, that's like Brian Hartline, right? Like he gets the best of the best, and then he develops the shit out of them. And he's got a track record of doing so. But if you had to pick one only, I would take the knowledgeable guy that's going to develop people over the recruiter that's going to get, because you're not going to get the 5-stars because they're going to go to the Brian Hartlines and stuff. You're going to get that kind of next tier down, which also still need development, right? To be number one receiver is in the Big Ten. So it's kind of
the other thing is if you go up the developer, I mean, like the NFL drafts next week, eventually developing turns into recruiting because if guys start going in the first round and they're making a lot of money, you go tell a kid like, look, I took this guy who is ranked 500 spots below where you currently are, and now he went 20th overall and is making, I don't know if the 20th overall pick makes like 13 million a year or whatever their bonus signing thing on is. But like that stuff eventually sells, whereas if you're a recruiter and these guys don't develop, it really takes you nowhere. So the developing part is obviously the bigger aspect here. And the thing is that like they have a window now, so it's really hard to wait for it, I feel like. There's not much in the portal for them to try to go at. I don't know if they even will, because there are still so many scholarships that they're still over. I know people say like the 85 thing doesn't really exist anymore.
But there's a limit. Right?
Yeah. I just don't know how they work around it now. I don't know what they do, but
I was looking at the portal the other day. There was there's a Boston College kid, I guess, who's I don't know, he was a 4-star out of high school. There's a Michigan kid, I forget his name, but Keandre Lambert-Smith, I think, became the number one receiver on the portal right as soon as and then I saw a thing on Twitter today that said he could be on the West Virginia team in not too long, which would be wild.
Yeah, I mean that happened last year. What Devin Carter committed to Penn State, left, and then went to West Virginia. So maybe history repeats itself there. But yeah, I don't know. I'm done talking about the receivers.
Okay.
I don't know. The rest of the team like looks good. Like the running back's still there. Defense looks great. I don't even know if they kicked the ball on a Saturday, but it's really hard to take anything away from that with all the wind.
They did. They kicked extra points like
Okay.
without a defense.
Right.
It was just snapper and the kicker and the holder.
Mhm.
They punted the same way. I don't know. The Tulsa kicker did everything. The transfer did everything. So
Interesting.
I like that, actually. You know, that's where Penn State's been very successful with transfer kickers. You should never recruit a kicker again.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's worth a scholarship to have some freshman kid, be on your roster taking up one of your 85, and then you send him out there and he's missing all over the place. I think you just go find a kid at some lower school that's really good and he has 1 or 2 years left of eligibility. You go get him because he's already experienced and you know what you're getting. I feel like, high school kickers recruiting them, it's a bad idea.
Yeah, and you worry if you're going to play that game for quarterback or running back or wide receiver, you'd worry about chemistry and development and things. Like look at Cephas, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, he's a fine kid, but it didn't pan out. Like kicker is an important aspect, but it's also somewhat like they live in their own world, right? They're not going to affect the chemistry on the team as much as many of the skill positions on offense or a more core position even on defense. So whatever, like you have a couple of them on the team, somebody's a jerk or whatever, then you can boot them and you bring somebody else. But you're not going to ruin the entire chemistry of the wide receiver room, for example, by bringing somebody in that's not playing by the rules and doing the right thing. So.
Yeah, I'm trying. I mean, when was the last time that a guy they recruited out of high school was the starting kicker? Was it Tyler Davis?
Was Gillikin he was a transfer?
Gillikin was a punter. No, but they recruited him. Who was kicking extra points? Because Stout wasn't kicking extra points in 2019. He was just kicking off. And doing like long field goals. They had someone else though. I can't remember his name.
Let's see. Yeah. Exciting stuff. Okay, so Tyler Davis, yeah.
Mm-hmm. They recruited him, I'm pretty sure.
Let's go to 2019. Let's see. Jake Pinniger was 2019, and then
right. So Pinniger. So he was the last one.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about like the all the kickers they've recruited since him. That Alex Barbier kid transferred. Sahadak hasn't found it yet, and there's some other kid from down by Allentown that transferred out too. So like, it's not really worked out. So I would just keep going portal with the kicker for the rest of the time, honestly.
A long time. Like he was, because he had two years of starting, and then Stout took over the 1 year and Stout senior year, and then Pinniger came back, and then last year was Falcons. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, I have nothing else to talk about. NFL draft next week. I guess we'll see how many first round picks they get. Looks like Olu looks like a lock. Not sure about Chop Robinson. It's like a maybe. I think it kind of depends on the team.
The report today was that the Rams are going to go on a private visit to Chop today.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
They picked 19th. That'd be good.
So, yeah, that would be cool. Man, some other guys though.
How many Penn State quarterbacks will be drafted?
Cornerbacks?
Yeah. And which ones?
One?
Daquan?
No. Johnny Dixon in like the 7th round.
Yeah. Man.
That was after the whole Sugar Bowl fiasco, not a good look.
I'll tell you what, if Daquan came back though, and he could have done, right?
Mm-hmm.
He would have been a huge piece to come back. And then if you paired him with AJ Harris, that would have been quite the duo. And has there ever been over the course of 1 year a Penn State player that has gone from first round lock, like top cornerback in the number 2 cornerback in the country behind Kool-Aid McKinstry, I guess, or whatever, to not even drafted?
I mean, not even over the course of a year. This happened since like November. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. So, not good. I mean, like, I remember when Hack was projected first overall pick, but he felt like the second round. So like that's
Yeah.
not as bad. I mean, we're talking about top 25 pick to undrafted free agent. Like that's millions, millions, millions. Yeah. So I mean, I hope it works out, but it's not been a fun few months for the Penn State cornerbacks
No,
trying to
it's tough.
get drafted.
And so if he came back, would he start?
Well, if he came, see, if he came back, they would have went out and got those transfers.
Well, let's say
I think they would have still got AJ Harris. I don't
let's say
think they would have got Kimber.
he came back. Kalen King came back to the team right now. Would he start? As is, without all the other roster moves as they are.
I still think, yeah. I think it'd be him and Harris.
Yeah, I guess. But man, just that sucks.
Yeah.
It's a big lot. Like, and like, I'm not picking on him. You got to feel terrible for him because, like you said, millions of dollars difference in what he's going to make in his life now because of the perception from. Like if he came out I don't know if he couldn't have come out last year, right? I guess because he was
he was just a junior this year.
So you just don't play. Like you get all that hype and you just like quit for the year or whatever, so you get hurt and
yeah,
you go and get drafted and you can't do that now. Very sad.
Yep. So I guess we'll see how that goes next week.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll be back some point within a month, maybe. We'll see.
Right.
No more obligations for every month. So for now, we're gonna lay low. But we'll talk to you next time we feel like coming on here. Honestly.